Hey guys, such an interesting video on Wild Rift. So we're back with a Tristana updated complete guide. Now I've wanted to do this Tristana one for quite some time now. Like I think even before patch 3.5 I wanted to do this one because there was this, well, at this point it's not really new anymore. There was this build using Navori Quick Blades, and of course as we know in patch 3.5a Navori Quick Blades became 200 gold more expensive, so that kind of sucks for Tristana and other Quick Blades users. However, in my opinion, this is still the best build for Tristana. There is an alternative one that I will go through later on in the build section of the video. But yeah, I do think Tristana at the moment is pretty strong. As you guys saw in my tier list, I did rank her in the S tier. But also, as I mentioned there, she's really strong in the early and late game, but she's a really weak mid game unless you get insanely ahead in the early game. And she also has the worst range in the game at amongst ADCs at level 1, so she can be really easily abused by other ADCs or even supports with higher range, so that is sort of a drawback. However, she is still really strong with her bomb and her burst. But yeah, enough talking about that. I'll have to of course mention, as usual in the interest of time, we won't be going through the skills in leveling order, and for that you will have to of course refer to the original complete guide for Tristana, which I will put up in the cards above. So without further ado, let's jump straight into the Tristana build. Okay, so here we have the Tristana build. So pretty obvious. First up, we start with the Storm Razor. Gives you crit, attack damage, and attack speed, as well as that slow. Gives you everything you need. So next up, we go for Navori Quick Blades. Now, why are we going for Navori second item? Well, basically there is one main reason we're going for Navori second, which is the fact that the moment you get Navori, so long as there is something to attack, your Q is going to be turned on permanently. So when you press Q for the increased attack speed, when you attack, before the Q attack speed increase runs out, your Q cooldown will be back up with Navori. So basically, that's why in this build the only attack speed item we have is the Storm Razor, just because of how OP Storm Razor is. And we of course also run Lethal Tempo because that is the best rune on her. More about that later. But that's basically where all our attack speed comes from, and this allows us to go into a lot more attack damage heavy items, including the Navori Quick Blades itself actually. So, of course, Quick Blades gives you AD, crit, as well as ability haste, and the main point of it is, of course, as I mentioned, the Deft Strikes passive, which, of course, does reduce your cooldown whenever you land critical hits. So, yeah, that's pretty much the main point of it. Another sort of thing that this kind of helps you with as well is, of course, getting your E cooldown back faster, which could be a factor in team fights, and also getting your jump back faster, which has actually helped and saved me, as well as helped me get kills many a time, because the cooldown is really long if you don't get a reset, so that could be a big deal as well. Overall, I think Navori is a great item for Tristana. And for Tristana, generally you go for defensive boots because you're generally going to be jumping into the enemy team, so you do want to get plated steel caps or merc treads to help you with that. And in the same vein, generally Tristana 100% of the time goes for stasis, because if you jump in, you're in a bad position and you can't get the kill. That's where the stasis comes in, or stasis is just useful in general regardless. So yeah, now next up, your next two items are gonna be Infinity Edge, of course, for the crit attack damage and the increased crit damage, as well as LDR, of course, gives you more AD, more crit, which puts you at 100% crit, as well as the armor penetration. Now, you can switch around the order of these. If you're into a very tanky team, you can go for LDR before IE, but optimally, you should go for IE first because it does increase your crit damage, and with 75% crit, you will be critting quite a lot, and this will, of course, help you out just in terms of your actual damage. But of course, if you're against a tanky team, then LDR is going to help you more than IE. And for your last item, what you can do is you can go for a GA, of course, which will give you that revive, and the revive, of course, will help you just come back to life and do more damage or run away. So when your GA is down, this is actually a pretty interesting one, because Tristana technically can go for something like Death's Dance. She can also go for something like Maw, and in fact I recommend Maw more so than Wit's End. However, Wit's End does also have a use. So Maw gives you that magic damage shield, gives you AD magic resist and ability haste, whereas Wit's End gives you attack speed, which we don't really need because of our Navori giving us permanent access to Q, magic resist, but you do get the unhit healing, so it's not like it's a useless item on Tristana either, so it's sort of a toss-up between these two if you need some magic resistance, and Dev's Dance is also an option as well. But honestly, aside from that, you don't really have a lot of last item option. So if you're against like a heavy AD team, pretty much you can either get Dev's Dance, or you can literally even go for a full-on defensive item like Randuin's Omen, or like Frozen Heart, mainly, basically. So, yeah. Alright, so the alternative build for Tristana is to actually not go for Navori at all. So the alternative build looks something like this. This is what the alternative build for Tristana looks like. So you first go for the Stormrazor into IE for the 2-item power spike, then you get the LDR for the penetration, and then you top it off with a Bloodthirster, which of course gives you AD, crit, as well as the physical vamp. So the main trade-off between this build and the other one is the damage is the same, because Navori compared to Bloodthirster gives you almost the same AD, but the main difference is Navori basically gives you permanent attack speed and faster ability cooldowns, whereas Bloodthirster gives you a lot more sustain with the physical vamp as well as the Bloodthorn shield. So basically it's sort of, what do you want? Do you want more uptime on basically all of your damage abilities, or do you want more sustain? Now I can certainly see some matches where sustain is going to be more important than cooldowns, but in general, I think the cooldowns are going to be more important, which is why I think the Navori build is better. I think this build is really good if you're playing into a very tanky team, because if you're playing into like a couple of frontline champions, so you can't just jump in and burst down the squishy carry or burst down someone, then you will be playing like front to back and just blasting people in the front line, and this sustain can really help you out. But as I mentioned, personally the way to go for me is going to be the Navori Quick Blades with this build. Okay, so now that we've talked about the build, we can now talk about the runes and the spells. So for the runes, you pretty much only have one option for your keystone, which is Lethal Tempo. I mean, technically you could go for Kraken Slayer, and you could technically also go for Conqueror, but I think that Lethal Tempo is just the best. Considering that you do have Navori though, and permanently have your Q on, Kraken Slayer is somewhat viable as well, but I personally just like taking Lethal Tempo, because I think getting more attack speed is just more important than having that true damage. But yeah, I like going for Lethal Tempo. And then we go for Hunter Vampirism, of course for that lifesteal, so that we do have some sustain, considering we don't have sustain anywhere else. Of course, something like Sudden Impact could be an option as well, but I think that the lifesteal is just way more important. And as I've been mentioning in all my complete guides as of late, I like taking Bone Plating, because after they buffed Bone Plating, it's now really, really strong, both in lane and in team fights, to just block damage. And finally, because obviously we don't need Hunter Genius anymore, because we do have Navori, we want to actually go for Nimbus Cloak. So Nimbus Cloak, of course, gives you a burst of movement speed whenever you cast your summoner spells, which is going to be really useful just for chasing people down or running away. Your movement speed is always a very important stat in this game. And for the spells, we're going to take Exhaust as well as Flash. You can also go for Barrier if you want, because sometimes you jump in, you need that shield, and some people prefer taking Barrier, but for me, it's always going to be Exhaust. So with all that out of the way, we can jump straight into talking about our gameplay. Okay, so hopping straight on into the gameplay. As usual, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And any questions, queries, or remarks, feel free to leave them in the comments below, and I will, of course, address them or like them. Alright, so now we're into the gameplay itself. So in this lane, we are having a Leona with us, and Tristana does really well with engaged tanks, because when they engage, that gives her the ability to hop in with her W, place her bomb, and start blasting people down. And furthermore, we're against Alistar Kai'Sa. So the great thing about laning against Kai'Sa is she doesn't have the best range herself. So here it already begins. Leona simply walks up for a stun. Alistar decides to walk forward for some reason instead of walking away when he has the bomb on him. And because of that, I basically chunked 3/4 of his health. Now, this technically should not have happened, because Alistar technically should have walked away, and it should just be, you know, damaged a little bit, about 1/4 of his health at most. But for some reason, he chose to walk up. Now, I think it should be relatively obvious by now, but if you have the Tristana bomb on you, you want to, of course, walk away. You don't necessarily want to fight when she has the bomb on you, because her main damage is from her bomb. So here Leona goes in, as I mentioned. I go in, and I barely managed to get the kill on Kai'Sa, and I hop away and I get ignited by Alistar, but I don't die. So honestly, with Tristana, at times in the early game, it is a little bit coin flippy because, as you guys can see here, we level 2 all in, and that could have gone either way. Like, I could have easily tanked more damage from, you know, the tower and also from Alistar and Kai'Sa. I easily could have died there, traded 1 for 1, or I easily could have died without getting the kill on Kai'Sa as well. So sometimes it's a little bit flippy with Tristana when you go in early game, but in general, Tristana's level 2 is one of the strongest, especially with an engaged tank. Like you see there, Leona eat in and Q for the chain CC onto Kai'Sa. All I had to do was level my W, jump in, place the bomb on her, and just start blasting away. Of course, level 3 you now have your Q, which makes it even better. But Tristana's level 2 is one of the strongest. Not many people can compete with it. Again, a very greedy back by Kai'Sa allows us to jump in and interrupt her back. Causes Alistar to tank a lot of damage, and I even eventually managed to kill. Kai'Sa's exhaust comes in way too late. I come back over and I actually exhaust the Kayn so that he can't finish the kill onto Leona. He eventually does, but this gives me a full stack of Lethal Tempo already, and I end up blasting down the Kai'Sa to get the triple. Lux ult goes wide, and I don't even end up dying, either to Lux ult or to Kai'Sa's 5th auto to proc the passive. Again, I could have very easily died there to Kai'Sa's 5th auto, which would have procced her passive, and that would have killed me, but again, that did not happen. So I will have to say that we did have 2 relatively lucky fights where we live on 1 HP in the early game, but honestly, even if I died on those 2 fights, we would be 4-2, which still would be a really good scoreline, but now we're 4-0. So obviously, we are incredibly fed, 4 kills in under 3 minutes. And pretty much with this kind of lead, we can pretty much do what we want in the laning phase now. We were already very strong, but now we're even stronger. We even have the red buff off of the kill on Kayn. So we really want to try to take advantage of this if we can. But obviously, now Kai'Sa and Alistar aren't really going to walk up anymore because they should know that they cannot you know, fight me anymore. And they don't want to get caught by Leona either. So this could be, you know, a relatively tame laning phase now if they do play safe. Obviously, now that we have such a huge lead in the early game, it is going to sort of cover up her weakness in the mid game, because as I mentioned in the intro of the video, Tristana's mid game is horrible if you're even or behind, but if you're, you know, quite far ahead, you can't really feel the weakness of her mid game, which is really kind of the spot you want to find yourself in if possible, if you can, like what we find ourselves in here. Here, Alistar messes up his combo big time. I jump in. Alistar is the only target I can really hit, so I just put the bomb on him and start blasting him. We almost get the kill on him, but you know, his ultimate makes him way too tanky to really do anything, so we can't really get the kill on him. Here we actually were looking for a turn onto Kai'Sa, who decided to actually step up, but unfortunately Leona misses the Zenith Blade, so we don't manage to get the turn. Alistar has backed, which now leaves Kai'Sa alone, and we do have a wave, so we can simply just walk up to get plates, or we can try to dive the Kai'Sa if we so choose. So here, we're just attacking the tower, but not using any of our spells on the tower to make sure that we don't actually waste it. So here, Kai'Sa for some reason decides to jump in on Leona with the ultimate. I don't know what she was really thinking there. The best case scenario is she trades 1 for 1. There's no way she gets the kill and gets out in this scenario, but just to make sure, I make sure to put the bomb on Kai'Sa and blast her away from her tower to make sure she cannot get out. Here, Kayn comes over for the gank to punish our overextension, but I flash away from the Alistar and the Kayn, and now we're back on the chase. Olaf comes in for the counter gank, Kayn ults Leona, and I make sure to stay away because I'm relatively low. Olaf picks up the kill onto Kayn, and it kind of all works out. Now the dragon is also up, so as a kind of knock-on effect of that, I will be able to pick up the dragon with Olaf. So there when Kai'Sa tagged me with W, I walked towards Leona because I was afraid she would ult me, but in hindsight, we did know that she ulted Leona and died, so we should have known that she doesn't actually have ult. So anyways, regardless, it is kind of inconsequential. We do pick up the dragon, and I do finally manage to recall to actually pick up items off of those 1 kill and 1 assist, I guess you could say. So here we pick up boots, and we pick up almost both. We pick up both components of Navori, almost getting the entire item itself. So as you guys can see, we are doing really well in the early game, which is a really good spot to find ourselves in. Of course, you know, as I mentioned, to cover up the weak mid game. So now my team is pretty much going to go to Herald, and Tristana generally never wants to rotate. The enemy bot lane doesn't rotate either. Here again, Kai'Sa gets caught. Alistar, I don't know if he was typing or shopping or what, but he basically just wasn't paying attention and can't really help the Kai'Sa or do anything for her. Now he's just standing under tower. We aren't gonna attack him anyway because yes, ultimately you can't kill him under tower, so we're just gonna go for the tower instead, and we do actually end up picking up the first tower of the game. So really huge lead for us. We're basically at 7k gold when majority of enemy team is still at about 4k gold. So we have a 3k gold lead over majority of the enemy team, if not all of them. And we're just in a really fine spot. We also secured the first tower for our team. We got both objectives, both Rift Herald and Dragon has been secured by our team. Matter of fact, Herald is going down mid. And this is turning into a relatively stompy game. It's 13-2 at the moment. We nearly actually picked up the tower. And Leona tries to get a catch onto Kai'Sa again, but unfortunately does not quite land the ulti. And here we easily take down the tower. Here, I force the Kai'Sa flash by just hopping straight at her. Unfortunately, Leona gets tossed around like a ragdoll and barely gets out, I believe, with a little bit of HP. Gets the heal and turns back around. Here I get rooted 2 times in a row, which is pretty unfortunate because I cannot really follow up the Leona engages because I keep getting rooted. But either way, it all works out, and my team ends up killing everybody, which is just beautiful. So here, we are of course running a little bit low on health. On Tristana, generally, even if you're fed, you're always going to be in this sort of scenarios because you're generally hopping into harm's way, and as a result, you generally are going to get quite chunked. So we also already completed our Novari Quick Blades, which I kind of neglected to mention, but now basically is the point where you want to have your Q on at all times. So here you see I'm clearing minion wave. If I want to, I can just press Q, or I technically should, but I guess I use the bomb instead to clear the minion wave, so I don't quite actually need my Q. But here, I'm probably going to use the, here you see I activated Q, and I'm using my attack speed to actually clear the minion wave. And by the time I clear this minion wave, my Q is actually back up, and if I need to use Q again, I can just activate it again, which is, as I mentioned, the whole point of building Navori as a second item. The moment you hit 2 items, you're gonna have permanent Q up, as long as you have something to attack, that is. But yeah, so basically, yeah, that's the whole point of building Navori. So here, again, we're using both our spells to actually try to take down the red buff. And by the time we are done with this red buff, as you can see here, our Q has run out, and it's back up again. So unfortunately, we don't take the crux, so we can't actually see that. But yeah, so here again, bomb is back up, Q is back up. We're just gonna clear this minion wave really quickly. And yeah, so here we spot a lot of enemies in the mid lane, and here I'm just trying to go for this tower. Again, I have my bomb again, I have my Q again, so I'm going to quickly take down this tower. I can see 2 people rotating from me. I jump to behind the minions to make sure Kai'Sa cannot hit her W. I spot Darius in range, so I'm just going to flash out because I don't want to get hooked by Darius, because that would mean that Kai'Sa can ult me, and I would... Actually, Kai'Sa doesn't have ult, but I didn't actually know that at this point in the game, but Kai'Sa would ult me, then I would die. So now, because the enemy team have chased me down so much, now my team can actually collapse onto them, and here you can see I'm blasting the Darius with the bomb on. Here I actually ulted him because I thought I would get the kill, but he got a huge burst of healing because I think he hit like a 3 to 4 man Q, which was not what I expected to happen. Anyways, Akali picks up 2 kills. We're only left with an Alistar now, but Alistar has his ult on, so he's really tanky. Here I'm just blasting away. This is like full attack speed at the moment. I have the full stack Legal Tempo. I have the Q on permanently, as we all know. And that's basically like maximum attack speed, because you don't actually build any more attack speed items after this. So that's literally my maximum attack speed, just blasting down the Alistar. And also because we see the enemy blue buff up, we're just going to take down the blue buff. Tristana doesn't necessarily need the blue buff a whole ton, but of course we do want to deny the enemy team, so of course we do want to take the blue buff. Also just taking the fruit since it's there to put ourselves to full health, and with the blue buff we should get back up to full mana, you know, in a while. So Dragon is spawning as well as Herald, pretty much at the same time. And here, we're just going to rotate over to Dragon and continue our Dragon stacking. Second Dragon is always better than second Herald. Enemy team, honestly, at this point doesn't even bother to contest. It's only Alistar who's here, but we can't quite kill Alistar anyways. Looks like the enemy team has actually gone for Rift Herald, so they've gone for the 1-for-1 trade, which is honestly a really good move by them, considering that our team is like 10k gold ahead and they can't really contest. Here, make a little bit of an oopsie, fail the jump over the wall. Indicator showed that it would clear the wall, but apparently it does not. So yeah, that's something important to note for me, because if I was like running away from a fight or something like that, that would have killed me. But thankfully, not too much consequence here. So here, the enemy team gets a really good cross map by using Herald Bot. Here I'm trying to stop Kayn from pushing mid, and Kayn's sustain is honestly really insane. After those buffs, his sustain is now really insane, and I can't quite kill him. He almost kills me, in fact. So instead, I'm going to focus on clearing the minions instead. And the Herald has gone all the way to Inhibitor, and I believe they get the Inhibitor. Kai'Sa gets the kill onto Orianna, and it's sort of becoming a very sticky situation out of nowhere. Really nice sequence of plays by the enemy team. So here I jump in, and I actually put the bomb onto the minion instead of Darius, because Darius was out of range. Thankfully, Darius does not have ult, but I didn't actually know that, and I actually flashed away because I was afraid I was going to get ulted. But that didn't actually happen because he didn't actually have ult, because he ulted Leona, I believe, but didn't secure the kill with the ultimate, so he didn't get the reset. But yeah, I didn't quite know that at the time, so I just flashed away just to try to be safe. Anyways, yeah, really nice play by the enemy team here. They know that we're on top side because we took the dragon, and they see people pushing top, so instead they use the herald that they took to just push down bot, and no one really responds to it fast enough. They end up getting the inhibitor, I wouldn't say for free because they all ended up dying, but they end up getting inhibitor when they shouldn't have any right to do that as a team who's 10k goal behind. And as a result, the goal gap has now reduced to actually 8k, which is of course amazing for the enemy team. So again, enemy team has really, that was a really good macro move by the enemy team. So that's definitely what you should be doing when you're behind, trading objectives, going for the cross map plays. Really good macro by the enemy team yet again. So here we picked up our IE, and now we actually built the Last Whisper first before the Cloak, because we do want to be able to shred down Alistar and Darius, who are building pretty tanky. Kayn is also relatively tanky. He's sort of gone for a sort of really weird build, mix between actual damage and tankiness, and he has gone for Red form. So it's really weird. I'm not quite sure what this build is. The build looks like he's going for Shadow Assassin, but he has gone for Rast. So it's really strange, his build. But yeah. Anyways, so here we can't really do very much. So I've decided to just go down and clear bot, because bot is going to be permanently pushing in with the super minions, and the waves are going to stack. So if we're not careful, the minions can either end the game or we can lose to a split push, which is what we don't want to happen. So here I'm just going to quickly clear out the minion wave. Of course, Tristana with her bomb can clear the minion wave really quickly. So that's exactly what we do. Now here we spot Kai'Sa and Kayn, two very valuable targets by themselves in their jungle. Leona goes straight on in with no hesitation. I'm hopping in to try to back her up. Run straight into the root yet again. Now here I'm just blasting whoever I can. Leona and Olaf are just running people down. I managed to actually secure the kill onto the Lux to get the reset. I jump in. Unfortunately, my whole team turns around to focus Kai'Sa, who has actually jumped in as well. So it's sort of a really unfortunate situation where I finally die after getting 9 kills. I give a huge shutdown over to Kayn. Really nice 2-man ulti by the Orianna, and everybody dies aside from Kayn. Kayn is going to die as well. So our team ends up winning the fight. 2 people died, including me, but we did get a clean ace aside from that. Unfortunately, our team's macro is like pretty horrible in this game, because as you guys can see, we lost the inhibitor already. Wave is pushing in, and in top lane, no one is actually clearing the wave either, so the wave is pushing in there as well. So instead, my team is actually going for the inhibitor, which is honestly a really good move, because Olaf has demolished, so he is able to pick up the inhibitor. Without the demolish, I think the inhibitor take wouldn't actually have happened. But here we do lose a tower to the huge minion wave at top. So again, I'm on wave clear duty. I'm coming up to clear that minion wave. As you guys can see, it literally takes like 2 seconds for Tristana to clear the entire fat wave with, her bomb, and with, of course, her Q as well. So here Dragon is actually coming up. I think I want to reset to get items. I probably can afford the LDR just based off of that huge minion wave. So I'm quickly resetting to get LDR to get myself to 100% crit. Which, as you guys can see here, we do get 100% crit now. And we're going to go, of course, toward the Dragon, which is going to be spawning really soon. So now, that's what the plan was. However, we spot like Olaf just trying to split push in the bot lane, and we have to get rid of this problem before we go to Dragon, because otherwise we could lose to the split push. So As a result, the enemy team has high priority onto Dragon. So here I'm just blasting to like get my cooldowns back faster, especially the jump. And yeah, so here the enemy team is in fact in the Dragon era, but they're not actually doing the Dragon. They're actually trying to go onto Orianna, and they do get the kill onto Orianna. There are 3 people in the Dragon Pit. Olaf starts running them down, and I'm just trying to catch up. So here I hop the wall, get the bomb onto Lux, and instantly blow her up. So there goes Lux. We spot Kayn. We're trying to chase down Kayn, but he is pretty mobile. Heal to actually try to catch up, but then me and Olaf both at the same time realized that actually Kayn doesn't really matter all that much. Dragon is way more important, getting the triple dragon, and Kayn cannot really come into the pit. Even if he tries, I still have my ultimate to actually just blast him away. So here we try the wall hop again, and this time it's a lot more successful, just to clear up the wave. And yeah, so here we spot Darius actually coming in. So here I'm actually running away because I can see Kayn coming from the lane. I can see Darius trying to cut me off. So I don't want to just get caught for free. Honestly, I think I can win a 1v1 against Darius, considering I'm like 5k gold up on him at least. And he's like 2 and 10, whereas I'm 10 and 1. So I technically shouldn't be running from Darius if you really think about it. But natural ADC instincts is you're alone, you see enemy, you run. So I guess I should have technically gone for a fight there. Anyways, we see Darius split pushing in the top lane, and we don't think the enemy team is gonna really respond to us. If they do, we can simply just turn onto them anyways. So here we're just gonna quickly just take down the Baron. We do get spotted by the Squire's Bloom, but unfortunately that does not manage to stop us from taking the Baron. The enemy team tries to split push the top lane, which is a pretty good move again with the macro with the split push, but they cannot do it nearly fast enough. And here I flash forward, get the reset, and I also get the other kill onto the Kayn. At this point, like, my autos are critting for like 1000 damage at this point, so I'm really just destroying everybody. Here Alistar simply just dies to the minions. Don't know if he was lagging AFK or or what was happening there, but he just simply dies to the minions. Way too many minions already. So here only Lux is left alive, and Leona is dead man, so Leona can catch up to Lux. Here, boom, boom, he just instantly dies because I'm pretty much almost full build at this point, and we do finally get the victory. Alright, so as usual, I'm going to leave you guys with the stats. So thank you guys so much for watching the video, and goodbye.